Welcome everyone to Conversations in American Democracy, this week's edition. We have lots to talk about, and we won't talk about it, but we will, as always, begin with Kurt McCauley and our Constitution Minute that never only fills a minute. But go ahead, Kurt.
Okay, Amendment 15, right after the Civil War. The right of citizens, Section 1 of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of race, color, and previous condition of servitude. And Section 2, the Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation, which didn't come until 65, 66, right? I mean, that's a long interlude, isn't it? And what transpired was a really terrible time. The Jim Crow era was probably as bad as slavery, you know? And that famous Supreme Court opinion in 1890. I can't think of it.
Was it talking about Plessy versus Ferguson?
Plessy, yeah. Plessy versus Ferguson.
Yeah,
had to do with riding in a rail car. You know,
Okay.
couldn't ride at the front of the bus, or you couldn't ride in the front of the train. Anyway, so that's our constitutional amendment for this week.
And
We're getting there.
yeah, we'll continue till we get to, how many are there these days?
28.
28, okay. When I was a kid, there were far fewer. Anyway, so we have so much we can talk about, and I'm sure everybody wants to talk about. And I've always been, and I want to remain, the advocate for looking locally. We have so many national issues that we can argue about and raise issues. But I'd like to talk about the seniors in high school at Matanzas High School and at Flagler Palm Coast High School. Some of those seniors will turn 18 while they're in school. Sam Greco, our current representative in the Florida legislature, is working very hard to make sure that the laws passed in the wake of the Parkland massacre at Mary Stoneham Douglas High School are undone, and he is working on behalf of those 18-year-olds in the Flagler Palm Coast High School and Matanzas High School having the capability of buying semi-automatic assault rifles at 18 years old. In the wake of Parkland, minimum age was changed to 21, now it's 18. At the same time, he's also working to make sure that those 18-year-olds who can buy assault rifles can only read the books that they approve of, the legislature, the State Board of Education, and so on. So here we want to give them great freedom, and they can buy guns, but we don't trust them enough to decide what they can read and what they can borrow from school libraries. It doesn't make much sense. But what does make sense is that Sam Greco, the son of the CEO of, what's the name of the restaurant? Anyway, some restaurant chain, has lots of money, is sort of a carpetbagger, and is our current representative, is a Republican, and we can do something about that by turning to Suzanna Pavelle, and I welcome, I want everybody to meet candidates, and I'll invite candidates, and we'll talk about Cathy Moon a little bit later, or give her her own day. And Phyllis, welcome. Come on in. And good. But let's get to know Suzanne while we can, and find out who she is, what she's about, and how we can help her turn out Sam Greco. No, Suzanne, go and introduce yourself, please.
Well, I'm Suzanna Pavelle. I grew up in Winchester, Massachusetts. I went to school in Delaware for 3 years. And then I got a job on Mount Rainier, so I moved to Washington State, took a little bit of time off of college, and then I finished up my undergrad in Oregon, in Eugene, and that's where I met Brian, my husband. And then following Eugene, I got a job in Hawaii doing archaeological work, because that was my degree. we moved to Hawaii, and then the archaeological work stopped. And so we were stuck on Hawaii without a job. So we both found jobs, and I managed in Atlantis submarines, and Brian worked at Maui Dive Shop. We dove a lot because we were both certified for scuba. And then I applied to graduate school in North Carolina for underwater archaeology, since I'd been doing terrestrial archaeology in Delaware, North Carolina, a little bit in Hawaii, Oregon. And then we moved to North Carolina, and I completed all of my graduate work in North Carolina, went to Bermuda a couple times, worked in a lot of underwater, doing a lot of black water diving, looking at shipwrecks and investigating them in the Chesapeake Bay. And then we moved to Florida in 2000, and we started our first business doing website development. And so we started that with my brother Matt, and we sold that in 2007, and then we started an importing company. So we did direct-to-consumer online sales. We went to China a lot. We made bicycles, furniture, other things, and sold them online. And I managed customer service. In doing so, I kind of became a lot more diplomatic than I used to be. Because you had to work with customers and solve their problems. And we sold big, complex products. And we did have instructions, we did have videos, but people always had questions. And so I had to work with the customers to help them with their products, keeping the products. And also I was in charge of hiring and firing everybody. So those were my big jobs, managing customer service, and I was the HR person. We always had health insurance for our staff. We always had 401ks, and we always had under about 25 employees or less. We really just wanted to make sure that we were able to provide a good experience for our staff. We also had, we provided parental leave. We had two of our male employees, their wives had children, so they had paid leave. So we were trying to make sure that it was a good environment. So I did that we did that for about 17 years. And now we're doing a new direct-to-consumer business, just my husband and I. And last year after Trump got elected, we started an indivisible group in St. Johns County. I worked with Cathy on several events, and we've been really frustrated with the administration. What's been happening under the Trump administration, that's just too much to really get into. But we started the indivisible group last year, and we've had some massive events in St. Augustine. We will host them at the Castillo de San Marcos, the fort downtown. And we've had 2 massive No Kings Days. We had one devoted to the parks, because we really care about the parks and the Park Service. And we're hoping that we get a permit for the next No Kings Day on March 28th. If you guys, March 28th. The day just got announced last night. Put it on the calendar. Yep.
And what was it that made you decide to run? Well, yeah, or, you know what, we'll turn it, we'll open it to questions. You know what, then let me interrupt then for just a second. If you need a copy of the Constitution, Phyllis just joined us. For those of you who don't know, the president of the Palm Coast Democratic Club, Sana Harkins, who's sitting over there. If you're interested in joining the becoming part of the club, talk to her after the meeting. So why did you decide now, and what did you decide? Then we'll open it up to anybody who's got questions.
Out of frustration, I was thinking, there was an opening at mosquito control in St. Johns County, so I applied to that because I was kind of thinking of taking a more active role in the community. I've always voted, I've gone to rallies and marches, but I've never been an organizer until last year. And so I did that. I didn't get the position, but I interviewed for it, and I really liked it. I found mosquito control absolutely fascinating. And then I was like, well, maybe I should run for office, because we're now working from home, we have a little bit more time, and I wanted to try to make a difference. And I was looking at all the positions that are available. In this one, it was part-time, which is helpful with working to an extent. But I also didn't agree with a lot of the policies from Sam Greco. So I decided that I wanted to try to run and see what happens. As a small business owner, I do have to try to figure out solutions for complicated things. Like we did direct-to-consumer sales, so we had issues with things breaking. So we had to fix the packaging. There's always things that relate to running for office. While shipping isn't a direct comparison per se, it is coming up with creative solutions to solve problems, and I have not been happy with the policies in Florida for many years.
We'll open the floor to questions.
So first of all, thank you so much for stepping up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank
In
you.
the past, you've been here
Yeah.
since 2000. There's been many cycles in which we've never even had a candidate to run. And I would recommend to you as a possible source of information is Adam Morley.
Yep.
Do you know
Right.
Adam? Have you reached out to him?
I will be. I'm
Good.
planning on talking to him.
Good,
Or
absolutely.
he's great.
asking if
He's
you'd like to
great.
talk to me, rather.
Well,
I think he would probably want
he
to.
has experience beyond most with the multiple cycles that he's tried to get into Tallahassee.
Yep.
But the biggest question I would ask, and I've asked this of Sam Greco and others, and the biggest concern we have is the loss of local control in Tallahassee.
Yep.
It has scared Republicans and Democrats alike. I hear our own city council and our commissioners complaining constantly that Tallahassee's removing all rules and allowances from e-bike control to the color of your homes. They want to rule and set policies. So how do you discuss, or what are your thoughts on turning that around or not? Maybe you see value in the state telling all of us municipalities how we want to do our business.
I don't think that's a valuable thing. I've been seeing the issues in St. Johns County and St. Augustine specifically. The county came up with the development plan. I don't know if you guys had heard about it, but it was a very comprehensive plan to help better manage the growth, because in St. Augustine, we're having issues with growth. There are certain areas that you can't, like we can't get to 312 in US 1, which has a lot of restaurants at lunchtime. For our business, we used to always get lunch for the staff on Fridays. And I had to say, we can't go to US 1 and 312. We have to find other locations because it took so long to get there. So the problem with the growth is insane, and Tallahassee doesn't really understand that. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, SB 180 pretty much cut,
Yep.
even here in Palm Coast, our
Yeah.
ability to at least participate with the builders in trying to do what's right. So
Yep.
That's a big conversation.
It is.
That you're going to be challenged with. So thanks again for stepping up, throwing your hat into it, and to you too.
Well, thank you for having
We
me.
have almost every position, I think, recognized right
Yeah,
now
yeah,
that's available.
we have a candidate in each, I
So
believe,
that's
most.
an amazing change.
Other questions? Is that, yeah.
Last year, I ran for city council, and the one thing that I would recommend to you is talk to as many people out there as you can. It makes a difference, plus you find out what's on their mind, so you can relate to them better. But I know, I missed the primary by 2 votes, but the thing is, as I went along in the campaign, the more I talked at places, all the different Democratic forums and all the things, I got more invigorated after each one. It got so easy. I wanted more. You've got to get that feeling, and hopefully you'll get that you'll get energized by every one that you do, because people see that energy, and that'll help you.
That was my plan. I do
Yeah.
want to talk to people and see what their concerns are.
Yeah.
I know a couple people in Palm Coast, well, actually more than a couple, but I know a lot of people, and one of the concerns that I've already heard about is the water prices. and also the water quality.
Yeah, Donna?
I was wondering if the state party has offered you training or education regarding running for office.
Well-
And if not, Jan Sullivan in fact is offering our local candidates modules, on fundraising or campaign management or whatever the things are. And she would also be a great resource. But my first question is, has the state offered you anything?
No, the state has not, but the St. John's Democratic Party has been super helpful. Holly Ross is in charge, and she's been great. But there's also a lot of like little crazy gotchas. So this is kind of funny. So I went to get my bank account because I have a treasurer. And so we got the bank account, but the problem is that I can't be on the paperwork yet because you have to fill out a form in duplicate. And so it says, do you want to be a treasurer or an assistant treasurer? And we picked the treasurer. And so now I have to send the same paperwork back to the state to be on the ballot, to be able to be on my bank account.
When my husband was running, I got to be treasurer because that kept his name off of the paperwork.
I wasn't even on it.
Oh, well, I can't even access it though. That's the,
Yeah, but see, in my case, she could, so.
okay, yeah.
It really, for me to have to access it, I didn't feel the need with her taking care of it.
Okay,
It's just a
well-
matter of how you want to set it up.
Yeah, it was just odd with the paperwork though, because it was it was actually unclear.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
It is.
Kathy
You
was
actually can be on the
nodding her
board.
head, but she's running at the county level, which is different than the
Yeah.
state level, but
At
Kathy.
least at the
Kathy
county
can-
level, and I've spoken with the SOE many times, you can be on the account
Supervisor of-
either as the
supervisor of
treasurer or
elections, by
as
the way,
the assistant or whatever.
Right, I just had to fill out the paperwork differently, or add actually the same page with me as the assistant or
Well,
whatever.
Karen at
so.
the SOE is very, very helpful.
Okay, because I haven't had much luck with the supervisor of election in St. Johns County because it's a Tallahassee issue. The people in Tallahassee are super helpful when I call.
Well, the office here is terrific.
Yes.
Okay,
This would be another reason to reach out to Adam,
yeah.
who's gone through this 4 times.
Yeah, I am definitely planning on talking to him.
And the state does have resources for you as a candidate, training modules you can watch. I only just got invited like a week ago, so did you fill out a form for them to tell them you're running for the state?
Yeah, I am on the ballot, and if you look at me on Ballotpedia, I'm there.
But you
Yeah.
have to tell,
No, she
you have
has
to
to
tell
be on the state.
Danielle at the state party.
Okay.
You have to send her a message that you're running, what you're running for.
Oh, I did.
You know what.
I did
Okay.
do that, yes.
Great.
Delane, did you have a question or no? Oh, I thought you, okay. How much is this gonna cost you? How much money do you feel you need to raise? And I just want to take a note that we recently had a school board candidate, Janie Ruddy, who had really much less money than her opponent, but she won. So the most amount of money, how much money you raise may be meaningful, may not be meaningful. What do you think? What do you think it's going to take?
So the St. Johns County Democratic Party suggested $100,000 for the campaign. I spoke with Rachel Grage. She's running against Rutherford, and she ran for a similar position in the previous election, and she pulled in about $70,000, and she said that that was a decent amount of money for the campaign. The issue is that my opponent has a big pocketbook.
Tijuana Flats, that's what his father owns, Tijuana Flats.
I
That's it, yeah.
had forgotten as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
I
go ahead.
do want to
I don't- you
suggest
know.
that one of the things that Jane did was she was everywhere. She was at everything,
Yeah.
and she was very accessible.
Mhm.
And I think that was, and so personable and knowledgeable. And so when you spoke to her, you just automatically knew this is the right person. You felt it in your bones. This is the right person for the job. So, and that's because she was all, no matter where we were, she was there. So, get to as many things as you can.
That is definitely my plan.
And I found that it doesn't matter if the person you're talking to, the household, is Republican or Democrat or MTA. If you talk
No
the right
party
language with
affiliation.
them, they'll connect with you.
Well, I mean, I was talking to one of my friends who's a Republican, who always votes and has voted for Trump and everything. And I asked her, like, what has the Republican Party done to make the state of Florida a better place in the last 15 years. I mean, I could go further than that, but it's just, everything's become much more expensive. The book bans are insane. We have a teacher shortage, we have a doctor shortage. We have so many issues that they're not addressing. They're more interested in the culture wars. And I'd really just like to get back to politics and just working on making the community a better place for everybody.
Is there an issue that you think would be harmful for you to raise?
Like what?
Well, I've been after, Adam Morley ran, what, 5 times in a row, and I asked him to take a position on gun control, and he would not. He thought that was New Yorkers know the phrase third rail. If you touch it, you'll get electrocuted. Are there issues that you want to stay away from that are too ticklish, or are you willing to tackle them all?
I'm willing to tackle anything. I am concerned about the new legislation that's going in right now to lower the gun age from 21 to 18. There are studies that prove that that is a really terrible idea. Plus, I just don't understand the point. Why are we wasting our taxpayer money on things like that?
So wedge issue. So that's definitely just a wedge it.
Yeah.
Well, as a gun owner and a retired military man, I think it's a bad idea. You know, 18-year-olds aren't ready for that.
So
Frontal
who-
lobe is not even
yeah.
completely developed.
So
Yeah.
who,
I know.
language is irresponsible.
yeah. So who thinks it's a good idea? Why is Sam Greco voting to lower the age to 18?
Culture,
There's the,
believes in the
the
culture.
gun
Does he get
coalition is
NRA
in his
money?
back pocket.
Does he get money from the
Yeah,
NRA?
I believe he does, yeah.
Regrettably, though,
Yep.
he's going to be able to defend his position on one thing you just mentioned. As an 18-year-old, and I'm on the
I know
other side
where
of
you're
this.
going.
Yeah,
I know where
as
you're
an
going.
18-year-old, as soon as I
You can
sign up
serve
for the
in your
military, I can
military.
serve this country, and they're going to give me a gun as an MP. And now I'm carrying a gun at 18 in the military, but when I go home, I can't legally own a gun.
I guess the argument back to that
Yeah.
is, well, let's lower the drinking age back to 18 too and see where that gets us.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it used to
Also,
be,
the military gives you training.
I was gonna say,
Yes.
and discipline.
Civilians
and
don't get that.
yeah,
well, it used to give you
exactly.
training on how to drink beer too.
How not to
When the
beer.
drinking age was 21, if you were 18 and you were on a military
Take base.
installation, you could drink.
Yes.
But you go off post and you can't drink.
I actually
In some
witnessed
places.
that endeavor, my first training base in the military, and I was 18 and a half, 19, and I saw guys go crazy because the vending machines in our dorms
Had beer.
had beer.
Yeah.
Guys were going up there and putting 2 quarters in there. Look, I got beer. Yeah. It's like, wow.
Now, they don't do that on
cheap
military
beer.
installations
Yeah.
anymore.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
But I was adding to the conversation about, we're talking about being able to own and buy a deadly weapon.
Weapon.
Well, we've just been schooled on the
Yeah.
fact that an automobile
Is a deadly.
is a deadly
Deadly
weapon,
weapon,
yeah.
and how old do you need to be to drive a vehicle?
Yeah, but interestingly.
Well, in
you-
the
yeah.
conversation of defense
Yeah.
was, I'm 16 and I can drive a truck as a deadly weapon, but you have to have an age of boundary. And in conversations with this individual who is very pro-gun, Second Amendment and all that, and I said, so I guess you have a problem with not allowing automatic weapons and bazookas and being owned by citizens. Well, no, that's wrong. So
But-
you agree the government has a responsibility to set policies and understandings and stabilization of rules for the betterment of all of us, which is hence why you have a drinking age, or you have a driving age, or you have a voting age, are all been put in place for some reason. So he never could defend the vehicle driving because we just had someone who was murdered for driving a vehicle. So it's interesting, opens up great conversation of understanding.
But as all of us know, and we'll go, okay, Delane, then Kathy, then Joe. But as all of us know full well, the 18-year-old or the 21-year-old can just go in and buy a gun. To drive a deadly weapon, meaning a car or a truck, you have to get that booklet, you need to study, you need to understand, and something that's, because I was peripherally involved in the issue, you need to have an eye test.
Oh, yeah.
Because there are people who own guns who don't see very well. and
So it's
that's
harder to
really-
get a driver's license than a gun license.
Exactly, and that's a problem. Why don't we have eye tests for people who have guns?
And
Why don't we have a
tests.
test and so on and so
Driving
on?
still considered a
But
privilege,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
not ownership is
Yes,
considered
yeah.
a right?
Correct.
you're from New Jersey.
South Carolina's
Because
the
we
same
were,
thing.
yeah, we were taught that driving is a privilege.
Privilege.
And in fact, I raised this issue once with Sheriff Staley, and he said, it's the Constitution Amendment allows guns, and I said, isn't that the part that has the words "well regulated" in it? And
That's
he
forgotten.
never responded. Yeah, never responded. Anyway, so Delane, Kathy, and then Joe.
Anything I was going to say is, I know you were bringing up, if you're 18, you go in the military and they give you a gun. So the age thing, when you're a public figure to military, but you got to remember the military's training in a controlled environment. Just any 18-year-old on the street.
And they
It's no-
have
no
officer
control.
situations to control those young people.
Yeah, yeah, and they teach discipline, and they teach following rules and so on. Kathy, and then Joe.
Suzanne, here in Palm Coast, and I think probably every city and county in the state is concerned about the bills they're considering to do away with the property taxes and how will we have police and ambulances and roads repaired and all of that. What are your thoughts on those proposals?
I think it's a terrible idea. I was talking to one of my neighbors about that, and he was all excited about the idea of the property tax going away. And I said, well, then who's going to pay for the police? Who's going to pay for the fire? He's like, all those businesses down the road. I'm like, how are you going to actually institute that to actually happen? And there's nothing in the that I've even seen that discusses that. I mean, I think it's an awful idea.
I'm kind of like, just don't go there, and then we'll figure out the plan B after.
Exactly.
whatever.
That's as far as I've seen, but I
Shocker.
yeah.
Concepts of a
It's a concept of a plan, and that's as far as it is.
Why can
Yeah.
Palm Coast afford to have 92.7% of its income go away?
And aren't the school taxes staying?
Yes.
They're
Yeah,
only
school
going up
taxes
for the
will stay,
non-school,
yeah.
which that's the
Right.
lion's share of my tax bill, I believe.
And the
Yeah,
people who are homesteaded are gonna be mostly the people who are able to give up their property taxes. And so it's gonna go on the shoulders of the people who aren't homesteaded.
Although there are several proposals still making their way through.
Yeah.
Not all of them are worded that way. Some of them will
Yeah.
give it to everybody.
But I mean,
Yeah.
but if you privatize, say, the police and the fire departments, then how do you figure out how to call them? Like, oh gosh, which number do I call? Like,
We've seen what privatized police look
That's
like.
education.
They're in Minneapolis right
Lower accountability, lower control.
now. Mm-hmm.
Joe is from Delaware, and I don't know whether so you know Delaware, but Joe Shields?
I swear to God I wasn't gonna break into jail.
No, okay.
However, I made 28 minutes, 29 minutes.
Yeah,
Was the law always 21 on firearms?
No.
Or did it change? Because I think when I was 16, I bought a J.C. Higgins 22.
Mm-hmm.
It was used, it was so old it didn't have a number on it, it didn't have a registration number on it. Subsequently to that, I bought a beautiful 30-06 for deer hunting in Pennsylvania. You had to use a shotgun in Delaware, but Pennsylvania was rifle. I don't think I was 21 when I bought a 30-06 rifle. I guess my point is, I would be careful. There was a commentator on Flagler Live the other day, called himself Republican Dave, I think. And he said a tendency for Democrats is Republicans will throw out something inane and the Democrats will jump on it.
Yeah.
And my only point is there are a lot of gun owners and they're not going to hear ban on assault weapons, which technically the semi-automatic rifle is not an assault weapon because it's semi-automatic. The current assault weapons are automatic. I've been schooled on that, right? So I wouldn't make that a high priority, in my opinion, going after weapons or changing the law, for what it's worth.
Okay, before I moved down here 5.5 years ago, I worked at a store and I sold guns. You can buy shotguns, high-powered rifle, and even semi-automatic AR-15s to an 18-year-old.
Right.
You can't sell an automatic weapon, but
Right,
I
right,
can't buy an automatic
Right,
weapon.
right, right.
And I'm 75. But pistols were 21. A handgun, you have to be
Handguns were
21. Because I had to go on and I had to go to NICS and the ATF and get approval to sell it to that person with their information. And, you know, they would say proceed or decline or no, or delay or till they investigate more or whatever. But yeah, like I was young, I bought a J.C. Higgins 22 shotgun over under.
And it still works. My son has it.
And
And my
anybody
granddaughters
that's
use
18
it, so,
can go in and buy a rifle
Right,
or a shotgun.
right.
It's still that way.
Being
Is
from
that
South
national
Carolina.
or
No, being-
regional?
By state.
Being
That's
from that's by
nationwide.
state. No,
That's nationwide.
no, I think state by
There are
state.
there are state laws.
It's state laws
And
that
again,
supersede that.
before Parkland, 18-year-olds could buy a weapon. And after Parkland, the legislature passed a series of laws. Among them, you have to be 21.
Because in South
Got-
Carolina, the same thing. But now that I think back, if you were buying a weapon like a shotgun or a rifle for hunting, that's how they were able to sell it to somebody that was under 21. And usually, if I remember right, a parent had to go in with you to buy that weapon. Because South Carolina had some strange things
Yeah,
about
there were
buying
states
guns.
that
But,
did that.
yeah, but there again, in the 70s, how many people remember going to school, kids having their shotgun in the rack, in the bed of their truck, or behind the cab of their truck, parked at the high school? There was no regulations about not bringing a weapon.
I'm going back to the 50s and 60s.
Yeah, a relative
me
issue.
too.
Go ahead,
But to
let's
address-
listen to Susanna.
But to address your point, I'm not anti-gun, but I do think that there needs to be some legislation, just common sense gun reform.
Yes.
A lot of the policies that Moms Demand Action seem really logical. I mean, if you have a gun, you should at least know how to use it,
Right.
and you should have
They frame
training.
it as gun safety, not
Yeah.
regulation.
Yeah, but
Yes.
yes.
Yes,
But-
my
Trying to
mistake.
get used to
Gun
that term.
safety, I need to
Mhm.
work on the right terminology.
Right, exactly, the words
And it's
matter.
Yeah.
just common sense.
Well, it's like Florida did away with, Florida still has a concealed weapons permit,
But
but to get one, back in the day, you would have to either send in your DD 214 or take a class. You had an option. So you just send in your DD 214, you can
That-
get your
that if
license.
you had military
get
training.
fingerprinted, you get your license. Now, I guess anybody can just
Open carry.
open carry,
Yeah.
which I think is crazy, but
Florida.
In fact, you can be on the terror watch list
To freeze
and
it.
also get a gun, and have a gun. Blaine,
I was
then
just gonna
Blaine,
say-
then Mark, and then I've got a question, but anyway.
I know there's many topics, but have you started to list like what your platform is gonna be, like your major topics are gonna be for you? And then, of course, you still need to have talking points for other ones that aren't your major, like, whatever. gun
yes,
topics, exactly. What are you planning to be your major talking points?
The cost of living is going to be my primary focus. My mom's insurance, who's right over there, she has a reasonably sized house, and her insurance is tripling. And she's not in any sort of a flood zone. She doesn't have any huge trees. She doesn't have any reason for her insurance to triple. A couple of years ago, it was either 23 or 24, our house insurance went up to like $14,000 from like 3 or 4. It was insane. And we ended up getting a new policy, but I mean, that's nuts. And things like that just shouldn't be happening. So I'm going to be focusing on the cost of living. I also am very concerned about the environment. And I want to try to see if we can try to stop all of these overturning of the bills like the parks that we had over the last 2 years. We need to keep the parks as they are.
From the setting up hotels and
Yep.
And
spas, et cetera.
pickleball.
Pickleball.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
people's
pickleball.
parks, not,
Right.
not their
Yeah.
playgrounds.
Right, not
Disc
bad.
golf.
Yep.
Mark, briefly, and then, good.
So yeah, finding a universal conversation. And falling back to Adam, there was a reason why he was very selective in the conversation he had, because he learned over time, as you will, we are in a red state. You are in a red district. So there's an opportunity to focus on those issues that touch everyone. Affordability touches everyone. Great platform. Healthcare, insurance, and focusing on the things that every door you knock on, every conversation you have, somebody within that person's world has been or is being touched by ACA. You know, Florida is second only to California in the number of people signed up for ACA, and we're half the size. And so the chances of you as the candidate going to the state and having that conversation, you have a great opportunity this cycle to reach out across to everyone who has a concern. I don't think guns or those kind of things, because they come with,
Baggage.
well, they come with a sustainable Democrat-Republican thing. And so affordability is phenomenal, insurance. I personally am pushing for healthcare, and I've reached out to the Tallahassee level and to the national level before the Republicans steal it from us. Because if you follow any attention, as we get closer, you will see
Yeah.
the Trump administration trying to solve healthcare,
Pivot.
Florida trying to do and solve the healthcare. And it's for us to really grow and talk about. So I think those will be
Joe,
winning
quick.
kind of things for you.
Question.
Yeah, and then healthcare is a huge issue. I mean, I've been here since 2000, and like I used to have a primary care physician I could see if I got sick. Now, if I get sick, I guess I go to a doc in the box.
Yep.
You know, you just can't see your doctor. My OBGYN, sorry guys, but I can't even see a doctor there anymore. I have to see the PA, which, I mean, she's nice, but, you know, there might be questions she can't answer. So we really have a shortage of teachers, we've got a shortage of doctors, we've got a lot of issues going on.
Yeah. Joe?
No, I was just gonna say, and corruption.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Everybody is affected by the corruption. So I would add that to your list of healthcare, affordability, and stopping the corruption. People can relate to that.
Good.
In education, when the ADA was created, the big, in my opinion, the most important word with that is accessibility. And I would imagine that like accessibility kind of goes hand in hand with affordability, because when things are affordable, then they're also accessible. So I don't know, might be like I am a big word person, so I just like words that we use are super critical.
They are.
And then they become the mantra, and they become, you know, your platform. These simple words, and just and things tend to kind of, in my opinion, they fall right in. I mean, look what Mamdani did in New York, right? He picked a couple of issues. One was affordability, and in my opinion, the other one was accessibility, like giving people access to transportation,
Yep.
so they could get where they needed to get to keep the economy of the city, you know, healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep more money in
Ken?
their
Ken?
paycheck.
Yeah. Ken?
I had a question for Cathy Moon. Would the state of the schools being closed and everything going to charter schools has anybody addressed the needs of special needs students? Because the federal government was picking up half the tab
Right,
for public schools
Right.
for special needs.
right.
Since they got rid of the Department of
That's right.
Education, and the federal government doesn't seem to be concerned about that, I guess that falls back on the state. But if the states are now shifting to charter schools, what
I
happens
think
to the
would-
special needs
So
students?
what I think would happen, and that's what I think is happening in that situation, and you're absolutely right, in my humble opinion, it looks to me like the federal government, thou shalt, through No Child Left Behind and the ADA, but you guys figure out how to do it. Meanwhile, it feels like they're setting up public education to fail. I was in it for, 30 years. They kept, when we were playing by their rules after Nickelby came in, it was like we kept hitting the goal, and then they'd move it a little farther, and they'd move it a little farther. So it feels very much like an attack. But it does feel like the states are going to be probably more liable for that, because just because the federal Department of Education is dissolved, that doesn't change the law.
I'm sorry.
And so what they're gonna do is they're gonna.
So.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead, you finish. I thought you were finished.
It's okay. It's a huge concern that they have shut down the Department of Education at a federal level. Funding all around is one of the biggest issues around the schools, and it's going to get worse because of the vouchers that we've done here in Florida. And they identified, I might not get this right, $100 and some million, that where the parents, or either the parents took the money to homeschool or they sent it to a private school to educate their child, but the child was physically in the public school. So that's a double whammy, because you're having to spend money and keep class size, number of teachers to serve students that the money flowed out for. The legislature is looking at closing some of those loopholes, to be fair.
And
It's a rare
Yeah.
moment that will be fair to them.
And the money needs to follow the child. It doesn't need to stay in.
Well, and another thing I learned, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that what they'll do is say the private school is finding Joey to be a problem.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
They will let Joey stay till after October the 1st. Do I have the date right?
Yes.
So that then they will send Joey back to the public schools because the money will have flowed to them.
Yeah.
Make no
Yeah.
mistake, what they're doing is they're using what you're saying, like, let the money follow the child, but it's masking what I think that they're really doing, which is we're going back to segregation. Because, we'll welcome you with your voucher, but you're also gonna have to pay, another $20,000 a year on top of that. So who can afford that, right? So they're only gonna take the cream of the crop, the best of the best. You gotta follow these rules, everybody else is out. So it's a bad scenario for
So,
public education.
I'm actually not gonna let Cathy Moon leave until she sets a date when she'll come here, and we'll talk about her candidacy and her issues.
I want to say
But-
I like the color purple because it's a combination of red and blue makes purple.
And it's the purple states that have rescued us a number of times. I thought, I didn't pick it, the person who designed my shirts did, but I think it's purple.
As a person who's colorblind, I find your question, your point out of order. And we need to finish up, but what role should parents play in determining how schools should be run?
They should do what the
that-
teacher tells them to do. Just that simple.
Well,
Listen to the
Spoken by a
professionals.
teacher, by the way, but okay.
I'm a strong proponent of public education. I went to a really strong public school in Massachusetts. My husband went to a really great school in Delaware. My mom taught in the public schools as a speech therapist. The public schools are the great equalizer, and I think the charter schools are really killing the public schools. There's a lot of also the teachers that are not in the public schools. They don't necessarily have to even have a degree, which is insane. And they're also starting to use the public schools space for the charter schools, which is absolutely crazy. And then I've also, some of the money that Cathy can probably talk to this even more, that the students get if they don't go to the public schools, they can use it for going to Disney, they can use it for buying televisions.
There's no restrictions.
Yeah, there's no restrictions at all. They can go on vacation with it. And
Those are
call-
enrichment activities, Suzanne.
I guess they are enriching for the families.
Yes,
Can they
exactly.
buy
But-
a Quran with it? Can they buy religious books with it? That's my question, I guess.
I don't think anyone checks to
Yeah,
see what they have
nobody's
done.
checking anything,
Nor do the
unfortunately.
students
Yes.
have to be
Yeah,
tested to make
there's
sure they're
no one.
learning anything.
This is supposedly remedied by a 310-page bill that's been brought to the legislature. So, yeah, it's not even going to be read by the people who vote on it if it gets to the floor to be voted. But they've made a mess out of it, and I think we could all agree that public money ought to go to public schools. And if you choose to send your kid to a private school, you do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Pay for it.
That's
Pay for
what
it
my
yourself.
parents did.
Yeah.
We went to private, we were 7 kids and went to private school,
Wow.
all of us.
Yep.
And they had to dig deep to do it.
Yep, that's,
Yep.
I happen to know, well, I knew it by heart. Our state constitution, we need to finish up, but our state constitution, Article 9, Section 1, says that it's an imperative of the state to have a uniform system of public education, free public education for everyone. That's it. Nothing private schools, charter schools. One system for everybody that's high quality.
That's
And
state?
That's the state. Look at Article 9, Section 1 of the Florida Constitution. The state has a responsibility for one system of free public, universal free public education that is high quality. And it's because they failed to do the high quality, they said, well, let's turn it over to private schools or to charter schools or to others because they're a failure. We need to hold our state officials' feet to the fire and say, you're responsible for creating a high quality system of free, universal free public education.
And it's all predicated on demonstrably faulty assumption.
Yeah.
The public education has been failing.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's
studies
not.
studies that have proven it is not failing. It in fact has been improving
Yeah.
since the 50s.
And that includes here in Flagler County. Go ahead, you want to finish up, and then Kurt?
And I want
Yeah,
to,
just
Okay, and then
the whole
because we
boogeyman of
we
religion.
have time.
I mean, religion is this, at the demonstration the other day, everybody see that? The big white flag with the cross on it?
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
Christian
Christian
nationalism.
Christian nationalism.
Yeah,
Christian
yeah,
nationalism.
yeah. Suzanne, you want a final word? And
yeah, and the other thing that we need to do with the schools is make sure that teachers are paid adequately, because they're
Yes.
not.
Yes.
Teacher pay is
Yeah.
really imperative, because,
Glorified babysitters, really.
yeah, and,
Because it's largely a women's profession.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like, you know, I was a medical technologist, which is also largely, you know, and plus, we're a little more introverted than nurses, so we don't go out and, you know, unionize and do all that stuff. But it's largely women's profession, so.
I read one time that the 2 workplaces with the highest level of workplace bullying are teaching and nursing.
I can see that.
Traditional women's roles.
And then we just
Susanna,
have a
final
list of
final word,
professionals.
and then we'll wrap
Professional
things up. Actually, we'll wrap things up and then have an opportunity to be more informal. But anything else you'd like to add or like us to know, to remember?
I'll have my website up within probably 3 weeks or so, and it's going to be at my name, SuzannaPavelle.com, SuzannaPavelle.
And that's written on the petitions that have been passed around. And if you'll sign one, Cathy Moon's petitions, I believe, are on the table over by the door. Thank you all for being here. We'll do it again next week. And as I say, we'll try and get Cathy Moon to come and other candidates as well. We want to give them an opportunity to know us. We want an opportunity to know them as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.